This is the Cast podcast. Rum bum bum bum.
Ra-da-dum-bum.
We're here today on Christmas week. Da 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 da.
Rum-ra-ba-bum-bum.
Today we'll talk about cards that we like in a color.
Ra-ba-bum-bum.
I'm your host, Alex Kessler, here with my co-host, Ben Bateman.
My name is Ben Bateman.
Okay, I think that was... We might have to do that a few times if this becomes consistent. Hello, my name is Alex Kessler, host of the Cast. I am here with Ben Bateman, my co-host.
What's going on, everybody? How you doing?
We are... It's Christmas week. If you're watching the video version, I'm in a very festive hat and necklace situation. Ben is wearing a Christmas Seahawks hat sock combo.
I think it's a stocking. Actually, this would be my Christmas stocking that would go on a mantle.
Okay.
I just don't have a mantle, so I'll wear it as my holiday.
I feel like
holiday hat.
I feel like a stocking is the middle point between a sock and a hat.
It's a sat. It's a
hawk. It's a stocking.
Yeah. That's fair.
Yeah. Okay. So this week and today, we're going to go through as a little bit Christmas thing, going through each color, and Ben, me and Ben have our selections of what our top 5 favorite things from that color are, and kind of just what we think our favorite things that those colors do are. Modern specific, so every card has to be modern legal, though some of the cards we might pick may not be that playable in modern, but maybe Commander playable, or were playable in Standard at one point, or were playable in modern, but cards have been banned. We don't know. I don't know what Ben's list is, but I know there's definitely some cards on my list that are probably no longer a thing or were a thing, but then cards got banned out from under them. R.I.P.
I think I probably went with like some more cards that like were a little bit more shenanigans than the ones you picked.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, definitely some powerful stuff in there. So yeah, we're going to be doing each color. You guys will hear this first one now. We're going to start with the first color, which is white, because we'll go in the color pie in that order.
Oh man!
And we're going to be doing our 5 favorite cards in modern.
If you had let me do it, I would have picked a different color, and then all the comments. I'm going to say what color I was going to do in order: blue, red, green, white, black. And I think the internet would have murdered us. So I'm glad you jumped in there with Magic's best color, white. White cards.
I don't know if it's the best color in Magic. I think that the cards on my list are all super sweet, but
there was just
tons of sarcasm because it's the
layers
worst.
Of sarcasm because it was sarcasm on that, but it's also sarcasm playing on the fact that I don't think white is actually the worst color. I think they're all relatively balanced. I think white has some catching up to do as far as Commander goes, and Standard currently it's bad because I think that what was so strong with Gideon in Battle for Zendikar, and they just had to course correct very hard. And then at the same time, they realized in Commander, they needed to come up with cool white cards that make Commander white decks have more versatile, more cool stuff that's going on there. But as they started releasing those is the same time that the fire philosophy started happening. So then every color just got extremely powerful options that started negating what was powerful. So like white starts getting stuff like, Mana Tithe. What's the enchantment that makes treasures? Mana Tithe?
No, Smothering Tithe.
So it makes Smothering Tithe. White's got the all tokens become 4/4 angels out of Ravnica, the most recent Ravnica set. Forgetting what the card. Hopefully it's an enchantment, 5 mana. Every token you make is a Serra Angel, basically.
Yeah.
It gets a bunch of really cool stuff out of the last Commander product. There's like really cool white cards printed, but at the same time, like Uro is printed, and Fierce Guardianship is printed, and Dockside Extortionist is printed. So it's like, yes, white is getting better, but at the same time, all of the colors are going bonkers, and white is just playing catch up still. So it's like a weird middle point. That being said, and at the same time, it was bad in Standard because they course corrected, right? There was like, we spent 2.5 years with Gideon. Ally of Zendikar was too good. Then Gideon Gideon of the Trials was too good, or good enough that it was like a top tier card. Then for like most of Standard with Ixalan block, like white vampires and the Adanto Vanguard based white decks were like top tier.
Oh yeah.
So like there was a period of time where it was just like white was very good in Standard. And so when they course corrected to make it so it wasn't the best color, that's when white starts being noticeable that it's bad everywhere else. Like it's been always bad in Legacy, other than Stoneforge Mystic. Modern, it's always been relatively good, right? Blue-white has always been a top 20 deck, basically
from the
since
beginning.
format
I mean, there was a
existed.
blue-white deck from you and I went in PTQs back in like 2012
And then, like,
or something like
there's always
that.
a black-white death and taxes option. There's always some version of like Naya Burn. Like there's the white sees play in Modern pretty consistently, so I don't think that was ever a place that it was hurting. But I do think like Standard and Commander together are where people were noticing that. That being said, this is the top list of white cards, and some of my favorites. Do we want to go back and forth, or do you want to go in order?
I think let's go back and forth. Do you have yours ranked? Because mine are not ranked. Mine are just five cards.
Casually ranked them. My number 5, my top 5. This is card actually I probably played the most in Modern, but is number 5, and just due to the fact that it's a little generic. Path to Exile. 1 white,
Very good card.
exile creature, instant speed. That player gets a land. Arguably the best removal spell of all time. Second best. Actually,
Yeah, I mean it's
second best.
There's two really good white ones. I mean, I didn't put this on my list because, like I said, I try to stay mostly away from the sort of premier cards. I'd say there's a handful of playable cards on my list, but most of the cards on my list are just like cards that I really like.
Yeah.
But Path hasn't been replaced, which is interesting since it's printing. They haven't printed a functional, at least an equal reprint, and so it's continued to be the best. I mean, the thing about Path that's so good, I think, is like, anytime you ever build a deck that is trying to do something where you need a little bit of time to set up, whether it's like a combo deck or even if it's like a tempo deck, you kind of, if you're playing white, just need the paths. You usually play 3 in the main deck of that deck because like you just need to make sure you don't lose. And it's just the best version of not losing.
Yeah, we talked about on the episode we did a few weeks ago on the Apparition card, I forget what it was. That like
Skyclave Apparition.
Skyclave Apparition. Like, it could they eventually print 1 white? They get a 2/2 flyer version of this card, right? Exile creature.
Yeah, probably.
Like basically that blue manifest card, but in white, but for 1 mana. Like, I think that's a card that would be the one that would compete in the Path to Exile space. I can also see them printing it at sorcery speed, and then because you can use it on your own thing, and that'll be like the weird way that it deals with it. But I don't know. I think that would be cool. Yeah, but Path, easy. Just like most decks in Modern, if I have white in it, I'm starting with Path to Exile in it.
I'm gonna go with a fun one here as my my first card, and that is Mana Tithe. 1 white instant counter target spell unless that player pays 1 mana. It is the white force spike. It was color shifted in Planar Chaos. This is not a card that sees a lot of play in Modern. People throw it in every once in a while to be spicy, especially in kind of white-based tempo decks. It's just a really fun card. It's sweet that white has this thing, and the way Modern works is the same as Legacy, where all your mana matters so much early on. You can really get people very often with this card. Like it's Modern is exactly the format where this card is effective. So I've just always liked it a lot.
There are very few cards printed that make you feel as big brained as actually mana tithing someone's card. Because like
100%.
They don't expect it. You're in white. They're never going to play around it. And you just get them. And then they just like respect you from that point on in the game. And you just like, it feels so good to get some with a mana tithe.
Periodically over the years, this card will pop back up as a fringe card in tempo or strategies. Like in Modern, you'll see it pop up as like a 2 of in decks that kind of make a 5/0 splash. And you'll be like, oh, why don't people play more of this card? And the reason is because the truth is getting them usually only is when in the first few turns of the game. So it's like getting their 2-drop for 1 mana or getting even maybe their 3-drop for 1 mana. But like the trade in terms of what you're getting is, generally speaking, you're gaining a mana or 2 in that exchange. You rarely get like a 5-drop or a 6-drop with Mana Tithe. So every once in a while you can get like a prime time out of it, but usually it's a marginal advantage, but it's still sweet. So I love that card.
Yeah. So my number 2 card is Wall of Omens. 0/4 for 2, draws you a card, just gets in the way. It's a white card advantage, kind of. It's the bane of every attacking creature on the ground ever printed. I love Wall of Omens. I love it a lot.
It compares to obviously Birth of Meletis, which is a more recent card. Kind of does a similar thing, Wall of Blossoms, but yeah, it's a card that I think is just well loved. It's from Eldrazi, Rise of Eldrazi. I think I played this card in limited a fair amount, but it's a great blink target. I mean, Wall of Omens is a standard, very classic great white control value card. There are a lot of similar cards, but it's very good at exactly what it does. I love that card.
Yeah, it's an early game play at a time where you're like not really, especially if you're on the play, like it gets you an extra card in your hand while putting something in the way of your attacker, at worst fogging for a turn, and like is something to do early enough to build a hand that just like kind of, it's like what Gitaxian Probe was good, right? Like you're playing with a 54 card or 56 card deck now, so a 60 card deck, and the 4 free cards have just enough value to make it worth it.
I will bring up my next card because it plays extraordinarily well with Wall of Omens. One of my all-time favorites in Modern, that is Restoration Angel.
So, to make this go quickly, that is also my next card.
Okay, sweet. So we can share our thoughts on it. So Restoration Angel, and we haven't been explaining what these cards do. I think we will quickly just for the audio listeners. 1 white, 3 colorless. This is a 3/4 angel creature with flash. When it enters the battlefield, you may exile another non-angel creature you control. And then return it to the battlefield under your control. So it's the ultimate blink enabler. It's just a sweet card. I've played this card so many times. The thing that's great about it is that a 3/4 flying creature with flash for 4 is already a pretty good rate. It's not great. You wouldn't play it in Modern on its own, but the fact that it has the added value and that it's just good is why this card is so much fun to play. I've won many a game attacking with the Restoration Angel.
Yeah, no, it's a threat. It ostensibly is a flash flying 3/4 that draws you a card when it enters the battlefield. Pretty much, you can, like, if you're playing Restoration Angel, you're playing with enough other things in your deck that when it enters, it draws you a card or better. Or better. People don't see it coming. You can surprise people. You can like double get them, or you block with like a small creature that they think they're going to trade with, and they attack, and you can like get them on both ends. So I don't know. I love Restoration Angel. It does so many sweet things, and like in blue white especially, like Snapcaster Mage exists, right? So it lets you rebuy those. It lets you rebuy your Wall of Omens, which is what we just mentioned. It lets you rebuy any other kind of value creatures you play that enter the battlefield, and there are enough of them. Blade Splicers, that this card is always really sweet.
And they haven't printed like another version of this that's like this in quite some time. Felidar Guardian would be the closest thing to it, I think, maybe. But my next card that I'm going to throw on my list here is Giver of Runes. Giver of Runes is a 1/2 core creature, core cleric for 1 white. Just for a single white mana, and its ability is tap another target creature you control gains protection from the color of your choice or colorless until end of turn. It's like the updated version of Mother of Runes. In some ways, it's worse. In some ways, it's better because it has the colorless feature attached to it. What I love so much about Giver of Runes is that you can force through Inkmoth Nexus. It's probably the single thing about this card I like the most. It's a really, really good enabler to win with Inkmoth Nexus, and in a monocolor or a 2-color deck, it's perfect. It's also just very good in Modern in a lot of ways. It protects your things from Walking Ballista. It protects your things from a Karn activation. There's a lot of things this card does at 1 that's just really good. And Mother of Runes was a powerhouse in Legacy decks for years. This card does a pretty close impression, so I love Giver of Runes.
Yeah, in many ways, it's kind of like modern day Spellskate, right? It allows you to protect things. It allows you to, like, they have to kill this first before they kill something out, and the mana efficiency of it being 1 mana means you're always going to kind of come ahead of that interaction, or at least parity if they bolt it or whatever. And then whatever, if they have to bolt that, they're not bolting the thing you're trying to protect. I've actually had a lot of really good success with it also in Badrock. So I have it in my Badrock Commander deck. And it actually would be pretty tight in Mod. If there's like a Mutate Jeskai Modern deck, that would be a thing that you definitely would play. Because it's not a human, right? So you can mutate onto it and start the shenanigans off. So that's also really cool.
It's really powerful.
My next card. We're now. This is the top 2s, right? Where that was your number. Oh, this is your number 3. So I did Restoration Angel. This is number 2. I cheated. I lied to you. When we talked, I said that I wasn't going to use this card, but I did because I forgot. My second favorite card in Modern that is white is Lingering Souls. And the reason I lied.
That's a white-black card. Well, you cheated. Come
on. It's white. It's on the front. It's got the white border. I love Lingering Souls. I love this card a lot. I recommend just throw it in a sideboard or any deck that's self-milling yourself. Put 1 copy in there because you're gonna randomly get the bottom half if you mill yourself, or just like it stalls forever. It makes every discard effect you have in your deck say draw a card. Nothing feels better than discarding Lingering Souls off of Liliana the Veil or Faithless Looting or self-milling it off of a Satyr Wayfinder. Literally all day long, I could do things that Lingering Souls leaves my hand from my graveyard or my hand into my graveyard. It's great.
The sweetest thing about this card is that they decided to cost it the way they did. I think there was probably an internal discussion at some point about the idea that they should make the backside cost the same as the front side. It should cost 3 and 3 as opposed to 3 and 2.
Do you remember this? Do you not remember Tom Lapilli on the podcast that it was his greatest mistake?
Making it 3 and 2 instead of 3 and 3?
Saying that, yeah, he said it was him who did it, and it was 2 and a white and then 1 and a black, and he said his greatest mistake at Wizards of the Coast while he was there was making Lingering Souls' flashback cost 1 black, 1 and a black, and not 2.
I don't remember. I mean, that we recorded that episode 6 years ago, probably. And I haven't listened to it in some
time. Like the 2 things I
time.
remember for the conversation was that, and then like him like snap saying that like basically Splinter Twin's going to be banned in 6 months, and it was.
Yeah, that's funny. No, I didn't remember that. Yeah, but I do love Lingering Souls. So
you're number 2.
Let's see. My second to last card here. I didn't go in order as much, so this card is probably a little less powerful, but I'm going to go with Selfless Spirit as my second to last white card in Modern. And I love this card. I have loved this card since the day it was printed. It is 1 white for a 2/1 Spirit Cleric. Sacrifice Selfless Spirit. Creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn. Here's the reason I love this card so much. Anytime you are playing some sort of tempo-driven deck that wants to make sure you can get in and keep getting in, you want effects that don't let you get wrathed. You want effects that make sure you can play them early and often, and they protect your board. Now, in this case, it's a 2/1 flyer for 2 mana, which is already just like a pretty good rate. Like, I love playing 2/1 flyers for 2. If I can back them up, that's like some of my favorite stuff to do. So the fact that this impersonates the old green-white elephant for 3 that did it, not Hierarch, maybe it's the other one, Dauntless Escort, I think is what it was called. And this falls in line with, Remorseful Cleric and some of the other effects that White's been getting more recently in this world. But it's just a super, super efficient card. I remember playing in Highlander with this, and Eric Whiteheads has this long-standing mono-white soldiers deck that's really good. It's got so many good soldiers printed. And it's so aggressive and so consistent. I remember telling him you should play Selfless Spirit. And he was like, it's not a soldier. And I was like, dude, it doesn't matter. It's a 2-power flying 2-mana creature that makes sure your board doesn't get wrath and doesn't cost you anything to activate. This should be played in every single aggressive white deck in every single format because it gets in damage and it protects your board. It's just a super underrated card. It's a really good card. I think this card's rate for what it does is kind of unmatched. There's almost nothing really like it for a white tempo deck. In my opinion. Love this card.
Honestly, you say it's underpowered versus other things. I actually think it's the second best card we've named after Path to Exile.
Yeah,
from
it's really good
power level and like sees actual play. Like it does a lot more than like historically over Modern's history. No, but like because like obviously at one point Lingering Souls was one of the best cards in Modern, if not the best card in Modern. At one point, Wall of Omens was seeing significant play. Restoration Angel was seeing significant play, but I think a lot of them has fallen out of favor. But I don't think Selfless Spirit has. I think that continues to be a really
in the
card.
Spirits deck. It's really good. So yeah, what do you got next?
Number 1, Stoneforge Mystic.
Yeah, obviously. I didn't put it on my list. It's not my number 1.
But I don't know if you love Stoneforge Mystic as much as I do. Like
why? Yeah, why do you love it? Go ahead.
It's efficient. It tutors for like whatever you want. It's tutor that's of that specific type. It gets a big 4/4 into play if you want it, but you can get swords that are all really cool. The art is awesome. It's really sick. It's been banned forever. We finally got to play with it. It did exactly what everyone thought it did, which was like just be good. It's I think one of the like key iconic pieces of what like White is best at, and it having access to it again in Modern has been really exciting to me. It's like one of the first cards that I like loved that like ended up being good ahead of time, right? Where like I like got a play set right ahead because I was like, oh, this is really cool. And then it took a year, and then Swords happened, and then Caw-Blade happened. I was like, oh yeah, I have these, and then like played Nihil Lightsaber for the whole entire for a chunk of time. But yeah, I don't know. I love Stoneforge Mystic. I love what it does. I like that it's really cool and great in control decks and aggro decks, kind of everywhere.
I love Stoneforge. There's a few things with it that I think are great. Obviously, Stoneforge classically searches for Batterskull. That's the original OG play with the card. I think that when they unbanned Sword of the Meek, the idea that this card can both be a beater but also be part of a combo is especially cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that this card, the reason I don't love it as much as you do is I don't really like the idea that my first 3 turns of the game, and then really going into my 4th turn because Batterskull can't attack until my 4th turn, are eaten up by this one sequence that's like kind of clunky in the end. Obviously, it gets you this piece of equipment, but most of the pieces of equipment require you to have a creature on the battlefield. It kind of requires this longer dink and dunk game to make sure that you actually have the resources to take advantage of this, which I think is why it's never appealed to me as much. But I mean, obviously, it's one of the best cards ever printed. It's an amazing creature. It's just not a card that I have as much of an affinity for.
I think the way I see it is you pay it 2 mana threat, right? You play it, and then you get a Batterskull, or you get a GT, or you get a Skull Clamp, or you get a whatever artifact you're looking for. And then you don't have to activate it on your next turn. You hold Counter Magic up. And then if they don't do anything, you get a free spell into play. And so like it giving you the opportunity from that point on to like represent a counter spell or a threat, and they have to choose which one they want to play into, really puts you farther ahead in my mind than just the fact that and worst case scenario, they kill it and you drew a card, right? Like if they snap kill it, you're like, okay, well I got this Batterskull, which yes, it costs 5 mana, but I'm a control deck. My job is to remove every threat that you have. So I'm going to survive to the time where Batterskull is still good, or I'll draw another, Stoneforge Mystic and be able to repeat the process. So yeah. So I guess my question for you on white card. Oh, you have your number 1. Sorry, go for it.
I'm a number 1. Yeah. Last card that I listed, and I thought long and hard about this, and I didn't really make this exactly in order, but I do think the power level and the probably long-term playability in the format here is about on par with Stoneforge, just because it was illegal for so long. My last card is Angel's Grace. And that is 1 white instant split second. You can't lose the game this turn, and any effect that would reduce your life total to less than 1 reduces it to 1 instead. So this is the 4 of in Ad Nauseam, has been since the beginning of time, and that deck has been on the radar since the beginning of time. So I think that this card has seen consistent play for years and years and years and years. I love Angel's Grace for a lot of different reasons. I think probably it's the thing I like the most about it is it's the most played split second card. And split second is such a powerful ability. It's such a powerful ability. Like, it's one of the few times ever in Magic's history where they said, like, we're going to design a card that basically inverts the way that you play the game. All of your waiting, all of your reactive nature, the whole entire way that any good Magic player thinks about their sequencing is invalidated by this effect. And it's cost 1. It's 1 white for that effect. So when you're planning to do this and make sure that you can't lose the game because of it, it has to resolve. This is going to hit the stack. It cannot respond to it. And split second's so powerful. So I think it's such a unique piece of tech. It's such a unique Magic card. There's a lot of cool things you can do with this. Obviously, you can protect yourself from pacts, but overall, I just think it's a unique card that I really love.
Yeah, no, I have a big affinity for any cards that say end the turn or lose the game on them. And when I say lose the game, I mean you can't lose the game or you lose the game as a cost. I think both are such a cool, like a cool place to a cool space to play in, and like the fact that Angel Grace is kind of one of the ways you can play with them, right? It's one of the main tools that allow players to cheat with packs or cheat with an Ad Nauseam or cheat with other, like a Glorious End. And I think that's always really, really cool. I also love it in conjunction with stuff like you said the packs already, so that's the thing you said. Glorious End was the thing I was gonna say. But like I don't know. It's always like it breaks the rule or allows you to hack more than most cards the way the rules of the game work, which and you kind of said that, but like it's kind of what all of the like old, like change the word of a color on a card to a different color, or change one number, like one of those things where it was like always like I'm hacking Magic the Gathering to make a card that's not real, and like those are always terrible for the most part. This one like actually like does that. It's like, oh no, this card that has a real cost, I'm now turning it around and making it a benefit. Yeah, agreed. Yeah, one of my favorites. So that's my final white card. So before we wrap up white, I do. So what do you like about white? What's the vibe of white? Like when you're playing Magic, what about it would make you want to build a white deck over a different color? I think white is the most efficient color when it comes to
presenting a threat and also affecting your opponent's ability to interact. I think and so mono white hate bears types of decks are cool, but if you combine a lot of the best effects that white has with another color, maybe a color that has more burn or a color that has more counter spells or something like that, I think white gets really, really powerful. And not every deck reacts the same way, but kind of white has the whole toolbox to do that. And then I think exile nowadays in Magic is so important. Exiling for black, it gets rid of graveyards. For white, it just exiles the creature. And there are so many graveyard-based recursive threats that if you get them off the table, I think you're in a really great position. So I think white's ability to do that, and the thing I mentioned, those are probably the two things that I think white does the best that I like about white, is having that protection, knowing you have this sort of level of finality, or that you can also present a clock while still affecting your opponent.
Yeah, I think for me, it's white's removal suite has always been my favorite. Like Path to Exile, O-Ring, even with what you kind of mentioned, Indestructible removes removal spells. Like it's an anti-removal spell feature. Not Tainted Pact. What's the Angel's Grace, and removes end the game effects or removes player removal. So yeah. I think that's always been, and then I think Planeswalkers. I think like Gideon was basically my number 6. It got cut off right at the end when I added Path to Exile. I love 6 mana Elsbeth. I kind of am really on board with that side of it as well. So
yeah, white's got really good, super solid Planeswalkers. Mono white's got great ones.
Well, there's one point, partially because the main white is the easiest color to put a hero into, to the extent that Wizards keeps making iconic white villains because they want to overcompensate for the fact that white would be so easy to be every hero in the game. But Gideon, Elsbeth, one of the reasons I think they killed Gideon is because they knew they were bringing Elsbeth back, and they didn't think that the game has enough space for 2 noble, heroic main characters. They've now added other ones like Bajra-Ket and whatever the shield guy is for More of the Spark. I'm never gonna remember that. I'm gonna say. Oh Tim.
Yeah, I know. I do talking about
Tim.
Yeah.
His name's Tim. I don't know.
Timana?
It's not his name. No, that's Tiamat is the fast other. Yeah, I don't know. It's right there. Marshall's put on the screen.
It's not Tiamat. That's the Murder King.
Yeah. No, he is the main character of War of the Spark. Or he's they created him to be a character in that book, which is interesting. So I don't know. It'll be interesting if we see him again, because that book wasn't very popular. So one last thing, everyone, before we get to the next color, we do want to bring up that we've been releasing these videos as video formats, kind of splitting the episodes up. So right now we're going to do a little bit of wrap up. I don't know which ones Marshall will keep in, but as a part of that for the video version, thanks so much for watching. Please leave a like and subscribe below. It really helps just algorithmically this video do better. And also, we have a patron. These videos are brought to you by our patron. The way we're going to be able to do, it seems like everyone really likes these once a week things. We're going to try doing them for a little bit longer. If we can raise the Patreon money, we can do it forever. It's just, it does take a significant more of a cost. So we'd really appreciate if you check that out. You get a raw feed version of the episode where you get to listen to kind of its own 20-minute piece of content at the beginning of every episode that's totally new and special for that. Plus all the weird arguing, or if I give Ben notes or Ben gives me notes on how we're talking or what we're talking about or the order of what we're talking about. Please check that out. It's really cool. And we really, really appreciate all the patrons that we have right now, as always. And then, last but not least, we do Commander content every Monday. So this episode generally comes out on Monday. So tonight, 7:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, we do a Commander live stream on both the YouTube channel, youtube.com/DamonCast, and my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Kes Wiley. Julie Blast, we had Zebex and OK Chef on last week. It was a crazy game. Ben built a brand new deck. You guys should all check that out. It's on the YouTube channel right now, etc.
This has been a production of Time Traveler Media, sending podcasts into the future.